people, and welcome to the AI Day Microsoft Fabric. Hi, Frank. Hi, Hanna. How are you?
Hi, Alex. I'm good. How are you?
I'm also great.
Thank you very much. I'm great. Somehow it's we see us every week,
Yeah.
and it's really cool that you have time and doing this for the global AI community.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
I'm very excited for the session.
So let's do the introduction. What is the global AI community? So this is around the world, the community, the biggest AI community. And what is the reason, Hanna, you joined this kind of community?
Well, for me, the reason to join the global AI community is, first of all, to find like-minded people that are also interested in AI topics, that are also working with Microsoft AI and Microsoft ecosystem, with Fabric, for example, which is my topic, and yeah, to basically connect with other people.
And that's great. There are a lot of people around the world who are already members. Nearly 150,000. Somehow it's not 140 anymore, but you see a little plus there. So it's
Getting bigger and bigger.
every time a back.
Exactly.
There's every time a gap. There are a lot of connected groups, and we're doing a lot of events since 2018. And I remember we have done events back before the COVID, and it was great to see all the people. Then we moved completely online. And I think that was the time we met, Frank, with you directly.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
nearby during the COVID. How was it for you?
What exactly? COVID or what?
No, to do events for global AI community.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is it's a cool thing because you know that I'm very active also in the data community, and I do
Yes.
this for a long time. And I think AI is somehow the logical next step from data, right? Because to do AI, you need data. And as Hanna already said, it's always fun to share knowledge and to gain knowledge from other people, to connect, to network. And this is something which you can do through the AI community as well. And as Hanna already said, you can meet like-minded people.
That's cool. What we already mentioned, or also Frank was also doing before we starting the global AI chapters. Somehow you see some cities here from Bochum, Cologne, Karlsruhe, Munich, Würzburg, where Hanna is coming from. Frank was also doing the global AI bootcamp.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think the reason we're doing every time different events is just to enable different communities to talk about the AI. It can be end users, it can be developers. And if you look to the next week where Hanna and myself were speaking about also data agents, we're talking on the AgentCon Cologne next week. So if you are in Germany, if you are in Cologne, please meet us in Gotha. It will be event for free for everybody from 1 to 7. And we are happy that we have Liz, Todd, Hank, Julia, and Christian Waha from Microsoft who are joining us and doing a lot of things with us together. So really looking forward to this. Last but not least, there's a call in action. So yeah, join us, be one of us, learn more about AI, meet and read, find and join the chapters. So that's not that difficult to start. Hanna, you started already a chapter. Frank,
Yes.
perhaps you will start a chapter.
Yes.
Let's talk about what was for you about to starting the chapter.
Yeah, so for me, actually, it came quite surprising to start my own chapter. But as I just moved to Würzburg recently, I tried to find data and AI community here in the city. However, as I'm also working remotely, it's a bit hard sometimes to really find those people that are interested to meet and to exchange opinions and all of that about data and AI. So I got introduced to the global AI community, and I thought, why not starting my own chapter in Würzburg, as there's no chapter or not really also a user group or something going on here. So I just decided to found my own community, to bring people together to talk about data and AI topics. And it's going quite well, actually. So I think I founded the chapter in July, I think. So we're about 3-4 months in now, and we have our first events going on here in Würzburg. We have more and more members joining. So if you are listening and you are from Würzburg or the area in general, I really invite you to join the chapter. You can join it on the Global AI Community website. Actually, you can follow the LinkedIn page. So we just started a LinkedIn page for our AI community here in Würzburg. You can get to know all the recent updates and meetups and events and all of that. And of course, if you are interested to collaborate or also do a talk on an event, you can just message me directly as well. So as you can hear, we're just getting started with the chapter, actually. So I'm happy to hear about all of the initiatives and ideas that you have. And of course, I can share also my experiences and best practices if you want to found a chapter in your own city as well. Always
that's nice. That's nice. Thank you for doing this. Frank, you're doing a lot of data meetups and user groups.
Exactly.
What are you doing there? Can you share some insight?
Yeah, sure. So I'm running the Data Monster user group of Münsterland. So I'm situated in Lüdinghausen, which is 30 kilometers south from Münster. And what we do there is we have a monthly meetup where we meet in person and virtually. Well, it's hybrid, right? And we always have topics from the data community, like, for example, SQL Server stuff, but also stuff in Azure, and for sure stuff with Fabric and Power BI as well. So depends on who is the speaker that month. Next month, oh no, this month we already have it October, right? So this month we will, yeah, well, that's, yeah. So this month we will have a talk about Azure Data Factory and Databricks, which I think might be very interesting. It's held by Thorsten Strauss and Simon Krohn. I think this will be much fun, and there will be many insights on this talk. And so if you are interested in this, please go find me on LinkedIn, ping me, and I can put you in the LinkedIn group where we also publish our community events, and then either come to Lüdinghausen or join virtually.
Okay, that's nice. Good. Since I'm from Karlsruhe, I do a Global AI Karlsruhe somehow with us now 1,000 members, and we're doing a lot of live events. So like this one for the Global AI community, but also in person also. And yeah, I'm happy that you are here. So let's move to the topic from today, from Microsoft Fabric. And we are happy that Hanna is here, team lead data NTI Tackle Group. And I would say this stage is yours, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. And thanks everyone again for joining. To give you some more background maybe about myself, a couple of words. So I joined Tackle Group 3 years ago in the data and AI team. I started to build up the team from scratch, and now we are focused on mainly Microsoft Fabric, everything around that, to build scalable data and AI solutions on Fabric. We work with different customers across different industries, mostly in the German mid-market. And yeah, I'm also happy to give more and more talks also about the topic. And I thought about what to bring today to the table, which is maybe a bit more technical, but also super interesting. And I chose Fabric notebooks. I don't know who of you already have been using Fabric notebooks already. Of course, you know maybe how to use notebooks in general, but Fabric notebooks, so built-in notebooks within Fabric, are also some kind of special. So I chose this one because it's often a bit overlooked or underrated, but still super powerful. So today we want to look at how to use notebooks to build, automate, and scale workflows. And we will have a look at some practical concepts. And if I have time, maybe a short demo. But as we only have around 25 minutes, let's just see how far we come here. Just to give a bit of a frame or introduction to the topic in general, because I know that Fabric is still a quite new topic to a lot of people and companies. So we've been using data platforms or developing data platforms, of course, also before Fabric existed. So this is why you can see here on the left-hand side the typical data platform solution architecture, how it was before Fabric. So you see there's a lot of different services in the Azure environment to ingest data of different kinds, like structured, unstructured, to store data, to process data. I'm sure a lot of people know Azure Synapse or Data Factory for data transformations, for automations. And of course, then you want to enrich or process the data as well. So you use maybe Azure Machine Learning or at the end Power BI to visualize the data. So the end-to-end workflow is kind of complex with a lot of different services. And this is also where Microsoft Fabric comes into play here. So to really generalize the different tools, the interfaces, the licensing models, and all of that. This is why, of course, we use Fabric as a central data platform now. And we have, over like all of Fabric, we have one lake as a central data lakehouse for the whole company here. And of course, it supports data from Azure, but also from AWS, GCP, Dataverse, Snowflake, and all of that. So you can really integrate all kind of different data into Fabric to use it as a unified single source of truth, a data platform to really build your applications based on that. But yeah, enough about the general topics. Let's talk about notebooks in Fabric. So we've seen how Fabric unifies all the tools across the analytics stack. And now we really want to zoom in one of the most flexible and also powerful components in the data engineering experience in Fabric, which is Fabric notebooks. And I'm sure a lot of people know notebooks, of course, as a scripting interface. But in Fabric, they really bring scalable code into your end-to-end workflow. So why does it matter? It's perfect for exploration, data transformation, and also feature engineering. And you can trigger them, for example, in data pipelines as a reusable processing step. We will dig into that into more detail in the upcoming slides. It's also perfect for people who want to really use code in a low-code environment. So you can combine notebooks with other features of Fabric, like data flows or pipelines that are more no-code, low-code, but then you can also add notebooks and really write your individual code there. So we can really use notebooks as, more or less the gap between raw data and analytics-ready outputs. So overall, it's a quite flexible way to build smart and repeatable workflows with your own code. So how do we use them in Fabric? Yeah, so especially for building automated and scalable data workflows, we can think of notebooks as an editor, and also like a full-scale orchestration engine that sits directly on top of Spark Compute and the OneLake storage layer in Fabric. So on the left-hand side, we can see some key capabilities summarized here. So notebooks have Python and PySpark support. So you can choose to run either single node Python, which is great for more lightweight data exploration tasks, or also distributed PySpark, which uses Fabric's Spark engine under the hood. And that's especially useful for parallelizing transformations across partitions, for example, to process large CSV or Parquet files, or also for training models across different data segments. We also have Delta table support, which is super nice. So notebooks can read from and write to Delta tables, which are the native format for Fabric lakehouses. So this also includes versioning, schema enforcement, and all of that, which is then also important for reliable ELT pipelines. We have pipeline integration, as I already mentioned, and you can have notebooks within your pipelines. You can schedule or trigger those pipelines as well, and then automatically run your notebooks. You can also use parameters in those notebooks, and integrate them into broader workflows. As I said, you can use parameters here on top of the notebooks to have more dynamic workflows, to filter logic, to apply transformation rules and all of that. Tables and plots can also be rendered in line, which is also great for debugging or for documentation during your development process. You can use built-in libraries for visualization here as well, like Seaborn, Plotly, and all of that. And of course, OneLake Access. You have direct connection to files and tables in OneLake. On the right side, we have compute and performance features. I don't want to dig too deep now into that, but we have on-demand Spark Compute, so there's really no manual cluster setup required. We can have auto pause and timeout as well, so we can save costs. So if we don't really use the notebook, the cluster also doesn't run. We have shared compute. We can use the same Spark resources across Fabric components, so we can share those, and also parallel execution, which is super nice for scaling your workloads and big data processing. So now that we've covered what Fabric notebooks can do, let's have a short look at some use cases where you can use notebooks, so in which kind of scenarios. First of all, of course, data exploration, which is usually the starting point. You can load raw data from CSV, from Parquet, JSON data, and all of that from the lakehouse or from some other external source. You can quickly check the schema, identify nulls, outliers, sample rows, and all of that. So it's really great for understanding your data. Then a second use case would be ETL workflows, which is also a classic notebook use case. You can use the medallion architecture here from bronze to silver to gold layer to classify your workflows and apply joins, aggregations, data cleansing, enrichment steps, and all of that. And yeah, that can also be integrated into pipelines, of course, to structure the data movement. Feature engineering is important for AI and machine learning projects, and notebooks are just really, really nice for preparing different features here. Also kind of connected to that, machine learning model training and evaluation. Yeah, notebooks support all kinds of libraries like scikit-learn, MLlib, and also any open source Python packages. Data quality checks, which is also, especially in our projects, what we do with our clients, super important. So you can implement automated validation rules and output the results as data quality reports. And also, last but not least, scheduled jobs, which is important when notebooks move into production. So you can use them really as reusable scripts that can run automatically. You can schedule them through pipelines. You can set retries. You can parameterize inputs, define dependencies, and all of that. So it's a great tool for daily ingestion, for example, for weekly data cleanup jobs, for monthly forecasting logics, and all of that. So yeah, as you can see, notebooks are not just for ad hoc exploration, for example. Of course, we can use them for that as well. But there are really more use cases in which it makes totally sense to use Fabric notebooks. So let's have a short overview about how you can work with notebooks in Fabric. So yeah, Fabric notebooks are a primary code item for developing Spark jobs and machine learning experiments. And you can use them as a web-based interactive surface. For example, yeah, for data scientists, data engineers to write code and create visualizations. And yeah, with a Fabric notebook, as you can see here on the right-hand side, you can really get started without any further effort, so zero setup effort. You can easily explore and process data with low-code experience. You can keep your data also secure with built-in enterprise security features. And you can analyze data across raw formats, as I said, CSV, JSON, etc. And you can use Spark capabilities here. So here we can see how to create a notebook. You can either create a new one, or you can also upload and use an existing notebook. To create a new one, like any other standard Fabric item creation process, you can create the notebook from the Fabric homepage or in any layer or folder that you're in. You can click on new item. And to import an existing notebook, you can just use the import function here and select notebook. And then you can upload one from your computer, for example, or yeah, use an existing notebook that you already have. You can also export notebooks to other standard formats. It can be exported into IPYNB. That is used for Jupyter notebooks, but you can also use HTML, Python file, and so on. And in Fabric, a notebook will also, by default, be saved automatically after you open and edit it. So you don't need to worry about any code changes that you can lose. It will all be saved. But you can also use save a copy to clone the notebook in the current workspace or any other workspace. You can also use the connecting Lakehouse to notebook features. So yeah, Fabric notebooks are super closely integrated into Lakehouse. You can easily add a new or existing Lakehouse from the Lakehouse Explorer, as you can see on the left. And you can then navigate different lakehouses in the Lakehouse Explorer and set one lakehouse as the default by pinning it, which is actually a super nice feature. And yeah, then your default is mounted to the runtime working directory, and you can read or write to the default lakehouse using a local path. But one thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to restart the session after pinning a new lakehouse or renaming the default lakehouse. And then you can add or remove the lakehouse dynamically. You can also explore then a lakehouse file, as you can see on the screenshot. You can just copy the path, for example, or just import the file or the table directly into your notebook, which is also quite nice. Yeah, you can also manage your folders and files in the notebook. So it offers a writable file system space where you can store small-sized files such as code modules, for example, semantic models, images, and then you can easily access them with your code in the notebook as if you were working with your local file system. Yeah, currently Fabric supports uploading certain file types through the UI, such as Python files, text files, JSON files, YAML files as well, XML files, CSV, and all of that. And you can write to the built-in folder with the file types that are not in the list via code. However, the notebooks don't support generating code snippets on unsupported file types. And each file currently needs to be less than 50 megabytes. But yeah, it's just a nice feature. What is also nice is that you can collaborate in a notebook. That's what I also did last week. I was with a colleague and we were working on the same notebook in parallel. And you can really see in real time the code changes that the other person does. You can comment or yeah, just run different cells in the same notebook. Yeah, with the collaboration feature. And yeah, as you also know from the standard notebook features, you can also add comments and markdown and all of that. To run notebooks, you can also use the UI for that. And you can run all cells individually or all at once. You can choose it in the interface, and then the status and progress of each cell is displayed in the notebook. Yes, you can also cancel the runs in the cell. It's quite intuitive. You can stop the session, and you can also reference runs in notebooks. Okay, let's quickly check the time. I think I don't have too much time left, but what I wanted to show you as well is that you can use Fabric notebooks also in VS Code, which is quite nice. So on the Fabric interface, there's a small icon which says VS Code integration. You can click on that, and then you can open and use the notebooks in your VS Code environment, which I can highly recommend. And it looks like this. So after you have installed the extension that you need and downloaded your notebook content, you can open VS Code, or you can open directly from the UI, as I said. And then you can start coding in your notebook. So what we use, or what I use so far, is just a simple Python code in the notebook. You can also upload any more notebook resource files and all of that. You can also download files here integrated. And it's just a nice experience, at least for me, if you're working with code a lot. Okay, so last but not least, I want to go over one more thing, which is environments that you can use. So Fabric provides quite flexible configurations for running Spark jobs. And in your environment, you can then select different Spark runtimes. You can configure your compute resources. You can install libraries as well from public repositories, or also upload local custom-built libraries. So you have different options here. And you can then easily attach those environments to your notebooks and Spark job definitions. So when you are in the notebook, you can really on the top choose the environments that you have configured before, and then you have them ready when you're running the notebook. Yeah. So as you can see, it's a quite complex topic. So when you think of Fabric notebooks, you might see them only as a tool where you can write some code and use it in Fabric, but there are really a lot of different options to use those notebooks. You can use them strategically also in your projects. As I said, you can use triggers, you can schedule the notebooks, you can use them within pipelines. So yeah, it's a quite flexible tool that you should definitely take a look at when you're using Microsoft Fabric. And yeah, maybe just a quick end note here from my side. So if you would like to know how to start with Fabric at all, I always recommend to start quite small, with a small use case, integrate one data source, then try some transformations on the data. You can use here, you can try data flows, you can try pipelines, you can try notebooks, and see what works best for you, or how to combine them strategically. Really understand how to use your Fabric environment, how to set it up correctly. I quickly mentioned the medallion architecture as well, that you should implement when you're building up a project in Fabric. And then just develop a small proof of concept, enable your workforce also to work with Fabric, and then step by step integrate more data. And yeah, that's it from my side for now. If you have any further questions, if you want to exchange some experiences that you had with notebooks, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or via the Global AI Community Würzburg. And yeah, I'm happy to continue the conversation. But for now, I will hand over back to Alex to introduce the next topic for us.
No, perhaps we first thank you for your time and the great talk, and also doing some questions here. So if you are running notebooks somehow, what was your first idea, or perhaps also your first experience on running this one on Fabric?
Yeah, so for me, it was a quite interesting experience to run my first notebook in Fabric. I think the first time I was using it, I just tried to build an end-to-end workflow. So I created a demo machine learning project. So I really tried to build the whole process just with notebooks. Of course, I could do it otherwise as well, but I just tried to integrate my data with notebooks. I tried to transform it, to analyze it, to visualize it, then to do some feature engineering, to do machine learning, and really just, yeah, try out different things, just experience to just see what features I like, what features are actually helpful for me. So this is what I can recommend, just to get started with it, to really build like a sample project, just a small one, doesn't need to be super big, but just to see how it would work technically, and then you can apply all of that into your real world projects at work.
Okay, that's nice. But it sounds also like all-in-one solution. So you build everything in your notebook. Of course, if you're familiar already with the notebooks, it is from Azure Machine Learning. We can create it on our own only on Azure Machine Learning, but then you have to provide data in there. You have to somewhere to do the data ingestion,
Yes.
to integrate some data there. If you are on Fabric somehow, you are already in your data hub, and then you can just provide the data you want to mention and edit it and transform it and whatever you want to do on the notebook side. That is what I have seen as a difference as a traditional notebooks we used earlier somehow, because it depends every time. Okay, that's my notebook, that's great. Okay, but where the data is coming from? It needs to be on the storage, it needs to be to importing there and so on.
Yes.
And I think the most people are struggling to provide, as you have shown this already on your second slide, I think, the different pieces, the different Azure services as a whole solution to get all of this access requirements and so on, and permissions. And if you are on Fabric, you get your connection to your workspace. It's all inside. You're just creating your instances, your items, and that's it.
Yes, it's actually quite straightforward.
Yeah.
I intentionally left out basically the data integration part a bit, but it's a super important step, of course, to get started with your whole project. What is quite nice about Fabric is that there are so many pre-configured connectors that you can use. So you can basically use any data source, third-party system that you have and connect it to Fabric. And if there's not a connector already existing, you can just use the API to integrate data. You can also use notebooks for that, for example. So you really have a lot of different opportunities, and it's quite straightforward, and time to production is also not really long in that case.
You know what? That's the best transition to the next speaker, because you talked about data ingestion and so on. And Frank, that's your topic. It's real-time intelligence.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes,
And the
that's
stage is
true.
yours. Welcome. Thank you very much, Hanna.
Okay.
And Frank,
Yeah,
let's
thank
do
you
it.
very much. Thanks for having me. And I would like to talk a little bit about releasing the potential of Microsoft real-time intelligence through AI agents. So what I will do in this talk, the talk is rather complex, and I did this several times with my good friend Sebastian Franke from Microsoft. I will give you an introduction to the whole topic, and probably, first of all, I would like to, probably the very first thing I would like to do is I would like to introduce myself, but only quickly. So my name is Frank Geisler. I'm here in Lüdinghausen in Germany. I'm the CEO of GLS Business Intelligence GmbH, and I have over 25 years of professional experience, and I'm a long-term Microsoft Data Platform MVP. As Hanna already said, the same is true for me as well. So if you have any questions, if you want to reach out, if you want to discuss things, please feel free to just reach me on LinkedIn. But this is enough from me. Just let's talk about our agenda and a little bit about what we will do. So first of all, I would like to introduce the business model that we are or the problem we would like to solve, right? Then I will talk a little bit about the architecture. I will talk about Fabric and real-time intelligence. So the main part of Fabric, Hanna already has covered, so I don't go into deep to this. And I will talk a little bit about data streams and dashboards and agents and MCP servers. So if we talk about Fabric, and especially if we talk about Fabric real-time intelligence, we talk about streaming data, about data that is constantly coming in. This data could be data from things like IoT devices, like events, something, right? But it could also be data, for example, from change data capture from a database. So when you have a database and whenever data is changed, this data can be sent as an event to real-time intelligence, and then you can analyze it there. The thing is, when we built this this talk in end of spring, early summer, Marcel and I was thinking about, well, if we have agents, and if we're talking about AI agents, then these AI agents are entities who are able to do actions in your behalf, right? And the thing is that if you have something like this, a very current flow of data is inevitable, because if you don't, so if the agent should act in your behalf, it would be very fatal if the agent will act on data that's maybe 2 weeks old or something like this, right? And we were thinking about what could be a good model for this and what could be a good demo for this. And what we found is, if you're dealing with real-time intelligence in Microsoft Fabric, then there is a demo, which is a bike demo. And the bike demo is about the bike rental stations in London, right? So what you can do in London, and maybe you know this from other cities as well, is you can you have your mobile and you can go to one of these bike stations, you can rent your bike, then you can ride your bikes to London, and if you want to get rid of the bike, then you don't drop it in the Thames or something like this. You go to the next bike station and just drop it there and go ahead, right? Okay. So the thing is, it is depending on what's happening in the city, right? It is important to have a certain distribution of bikes. So there are some external factors that might influence how people are using these bikes. One of these factors could be weather, right? If it is raining cats and dogs, maybe people do not want to ride a bike, but they would like to go by cab or go by Uber or something like this. And on the other hand, another very important external factor might be events. So if there are events happening in London, like, for example, I don't know, Metallica is playing in Wembley Stadium or something like this, right? Then there might be the demand for bikes in this area where the Wembley Stadium is, might be higher than the demand somewhere else, right? And this is our demo. And so what we did is we took all of the data and fed it into an AI agent. I will tell a little bit about this a little bit later. And the idea is that this AI agent is something that can talk to a bike disposal system somehow, right? We were in our demo, we were thinking about an email, but for sure, well, what we could do is, if there is a real bike disposal system somewhere, we can just send information to this bike disposal system, so that this cares about that the bikes will be distributed where they are needed most, or where the probability that they are needed most is the highest, right? So the architecture that we did looks like this. So we have our data stream. The data stream is a constant flow of data from two different sources. I will talk a little bit later on this as well. One source is the data about the bikes. So whenever a bike is rented, whenever a bike is returned, this will create an event, and this event will just go through real-time intelligence into our data platform, right? The other thing is what we did as well is, well, it's not really streaming, but we did something like micro batching through streaming, is weather data. So what we did is and this is something I'm very happy that Hanna had a talk about notebooks, because this is something I do in a notebook as well, is I am accessing the Open Meteo API. I don't know if you might know it. This is a weather service where you can just have a stream of weather data. I'm accessing this Open Meteo API, and I stream from there through the notebook. I stream the weather to our event stream in real-time intelligence. There are some more data involved, and the thing is, micro batching in this case. So the weather information we get from Open Meteo app is only 15 minutes anyway. So it is not like that we have the weather in a time frame from like a second or something like this. On the other hand, as you know, if you're not right in a hurricane or something like this, then the weather might not change so rapidly, right? So the other data we get is some data we are not streaming, but this is data we will batch and load on a certain schedule. This is weather about events, and what we did here is we were accessing the web API from Ticketmaster, because if you do this, as you might know, Ticketmaster is a big company who sells tickets for any kinds of events. And if we do this, we get the information about events in London. And not only this, what we do as well is we group all of this data by borough, right? So we have the different boroughs of London, and so we can see which bike stations are in the boroughs, and which events are in the boroughs, and how is the weather. And this is all this information is information that is passed through the agent, or this agent can access through an MCP server. I will tell a little bit about MCP servers a little bit later. And so all of this information, the agent can use for reasoning how to distribute the bikes. And as you can see on this example, it is very crucial that the agent has current information about where are the bikes, and how is the weather, and which events are going on, right? And so what we do here is through the data platform, there is a data agent, and Alex will talk a little bit about the data agent after my talk, so I won't cover it here in full detail. So there is a data agent, and what you can do with the Fabric data agent is you can ask questions. So you can ask questions to all the underlying data, like how many bikes are in West End or stuff like this. And then what the data agent will do is it will just transform this into some kind of query. We'll query the underlying databases, and then we'll return the result, right? And the cool thing about this is you can use the data agent like a chatbot, right? Like you would use, for example, a Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever, right? And you can use it this way to just access the data to get insights from your data without knowing how to program SQL or KQL or whatnot. So the other thing is what we what we do is we then send data to our bike dispatch agent. This bike dispatch agent is an agent which is running outside of Fabric. It's running in AI Foundry, and what this agent is doing is, on basis of the data that it has, on basis of this current data, it is controlling our bike dispatch system. In our demo, because we don't have any real bike dispatch system, so what we have in our demo is just an email notification. But in a real scenario, this will not be an email notification. This will be some kind of a command to a real system, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our architecture. So the architecture looks like this, as already said, and maybe I will just get my laser pointer so you can follow my thoughts. So there are certain things which are within Fabric, and the old-fashioned database, data analytics stuff is here in yellow or in orange, and the new fancy AI stuff is in purple, right? So what we have is we have an event house. So an event house is something like a container for KQL databases. A KQL database is a special time series database that Microsoft developed to store massive amounts of time-based data. Right? It's used for storing events. This is the same technology that is behind Log Analytics workspaces, is behind App Insights, right? And this technology is also used here for this time-based data. So we have two kinds of data streams. One is the bikes data stream, one is the weather data stream, both fed into Event House. And the events, as already said, because the events don't change so rapidly, right? So for sure there will be a new event maybe now and then on the Ticketmaster web API, but it's not like the events changing within seconds or something like this. So what we did here is also through a notebook, we are getting the events from the web API and then sending them to a lakehouse. This is a very common scenario in data streaming analytics, because on the one hand, you have the streaming data. And usually, if you're thinking about streaming data, and if you're thinking about probably data coming from IoT devices, right? Then usually, in this case, there is like a unique identifier for the device, like for example, a device ID or something like this, and then the measurements. Say we have a device that will measure temperature or something like this, then you will have this device ID, and then you will have the temperature. There is not so much more data, because usually, if you're thinking on IoT scenarios with probably very simple devices, right? Then the thing is that, first of all, the device is simple, right? And the other thing is that also the bandwidth, which is used to transfer the data to our analytics system, is also very limited. So in this case, and the other thing is you don't want to replicate the same data, like the device brand, like the type of device, like probably where the device is situated. You don't want to send this data over the data stream over and over and over again, right? So usually, if you have such environments, usually you have the more static data within a more static kind of database, and in this case, it's a lakehouse. So what we do is we batch load the events once in a while. We load this to the lakehouse, and then we have this combination between the streaming data from the event house and the not streamed, the batch data from the lakehouse. All of this data, which is in the event house. So what we do here is we are also using a concept which is called shortcuts. So one of the ideas, and Hanna already said this, is that the one lake, which is the storage foundation of Fabric, the idea behind the one lake is that data should be stored only once in the one lake. The purpose of this is because the second you copy data to another system, to an Excel file, to wherever, in this moment, what you're doing is you're duplicating the data, and this second copy of the data has somehow to be maintained, because what you don't want to have in an analytics system is different kinds of the truths, because this Excel file hasn't been updated, so there is data from maybe 2 weeks ago, and the current data, which is probably in our lakehouse, tells a whole different story, right? And because of this, there is a concept within Fabric which is called shortcut. And a shortcut is like, you can imagine a shortcut something like a pointer, or if you're coming from a SQL background, you can imagine it like some kind of a linked server or something like this, where you say, okay, I can access the data within my data estate, like for example, within my event house. I can access the data as if it would be in my event house, as if this table, which is shortcutted from somewhere else, would exist in my event house, but it doesn't. It just is stored somewhere else, and whenever I'm using this table, the data is loaded from this place where the data is stored, right? So okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the other architecture here. So we have an MCP server. I will tell a little bit about MCP servers a little bit later. MCP you can think of like an USB 3 for artificial intelligence. So what an MCP server is doing is an MCP server can couple LLM, or not an LLM, but a data agent who is then accessing an LLM and the MCP server to different kinds of services. These services could be like applications for you. For example, you can link the LLM through the agent with the MCP server to a calculator, so it can do some calculations. Or what you could do as well, and this is the other kind of service you can link an MCP server to, is data. So whenever the agent detects that there is some data, or there is some query which is querying data from your data source, then it will not use the LLM, but it will use the MCP server to get this data from the data source. And this MCP server, in this case, I have a slide on the MCP server as well. This MCP server is living outside of Fabric, right? In our example, this MCP server is just a local a program that is executed on my local laptop in this case, right? And what you could do is you can access this MCP server through some interface, which can be linked with an MCP server. One of these interfaces could be Cloud Desktop. Another interface could be Visual Studio Code. And what you can do here is you can just chat with the with Cloud Desktop in this case, and it will and whenever it will you are querying for data, it will reach out to the MCP server, which will then reach out to the event house and get the data from there. The other thing is through AI Foundry, we have our bike dispatch agent. The bike dispatch agent is on the one hand talking to our data agent to get data from our data agent from the event house, and on the other hand, the bike dispatch agent is also talking through our dispatch request API, our imagined bike dispatch API from this bike dispatch system. So it can just control the system and say, okay, please dispatch some more bikes to, say, Wembley Stadium or something, or bike points near Wembley Stadium, right? Okay, this is our architecture. And the thing is, I will tell a little bit about Fabric and RTI in this case. So the overview, this is something that Hanna already explained, is this platform. The main thing we will concentrate right now is the real-time intelligence part. So real-time intelligence is built of different kind of tools or different kind of components you could use to to build your streaming data analytics solution. And the good thing on this is maybe you have already experience with streaming data, and streaming data using event hubs, using stream analytics and stuff like this was a very complicated, very cumbersome task where you need many much knowledge on different technologies, on how to couple them, on how all of this works, right? And the good thing is that in real-time intelligence, this whole thing, as it is part of the software as a service environment of Fabric, is a low-code, no-code solution. So in this case, and so you can easily, and I won't show you demo, but I will at least show you a little bit in the portal how this looks like. So you can very easily model your data stream, and then very easily also have some transformations within your data stream. So in this case, and what this is represented by is the so-called event stream. The event stream is for ingesting and processing the data stream. Event stream can be coupled with many different event-based sources. Like, for example, you could use Kafka, you could use Amazon Kinesis, stuff like this, right? And the other thing is what you could do as well is if you have something which is able to send data to an event hub, then you can use the custom connector. What this will do is behind the covers, it will give you an event hub. You can get the information how to send data to this event hub, and then you can use it in your own programs, right? And if you have something which just is producing streaming data and is able to send this to an event hub, the only thing you have to do is you just have to input this data into your application, and then it will just send the data to this event hub, which is part of this event stream. The data which is streaming in, you can have two kinds of processing of this data, right? So one thing is you can directly send it to a thing which is called the activator. An activator is something which can act on data. So for example, it is detecting some patterns in your data. Maybe a value is going beyond a certain threshold or is falling below a certain threshold, something like this. And then based on these rules you can define, it is able to execute actions. These actions could be very simple actions, like, for example, sending an email or maybe sending a Teams message. But the other thing is, and this is where all of this gets very, very powerful, is you can also combine it with Power Automate. So what you could do is, whenever a certain condition is met, you can just execute a Power Automate flow, and this Power Automate flow will do whatever a Power Automate flow can do. And as you know, if you are dealing with Power Automate, as you know, there are countless connectors, and there are countless things you could do with Power Automate, right? So this is one thing. In this case, if we follow the top path here, then the data will be lost. It will not be saved. It will just be evaluated. And if there are certain conditions met, which you defined as a rule, then the action will take place. And if the conditions are not met, nothing will happen, right? The other thing is, if you probably would like to keep your data for further analysis, for having some historic data, something like this, what you can do is you can just put your data into an event house. The event house you can think of like a container for KQL databases. KQL, the K in KQL stands for Custo, so KQL is Custo query language. Custo query language, for people who don't know, is like other query languages, like, for example, R or M, right? So you start with the table, and then through the different lines you put below the name of the table, you refine your data more and more, and you can do filtering, you can do stuff like, for example, expanding JSON codes, something like this, and you can just you can transform your data however you would like. And the thing is, within this KQL databases, there are things which are showed here, which are KQL query sets. A KQL query set is a little bit comparable to a notebook. So what you not can do in a KQL query set is you cannot have markup cells, right? But on the other hand, what you can have in there is you can have KQL query code, and this KQL query code then can show you data, can modify data, stuff like this. And because the KQL query set is part of the KQL database, this is also a tool you could use for collaboration. So everyone who can access the KQL database can also access the KQL query sets, which are stored within this database. And so you can use it like a kind of a simple code repository for KQL queries, and can use it for collaboration with peers as well, right? So one more thing is, on the one hand, the activator is a very good thing to just put things into action, to execute stuff. On the other hand, probably you would like to visualize what's happening as well, right? Maybe if you're thinking about real-time or near real-time scenarios, you might think about a big factory floor with conveyor belts and stuff like this, and maybe a big screen on top of the floor where you can see numbers like, okay, how many items did we produce, stuff like this, right? And there is, for sure, you could do something like this with Power BI, right? The other opportunity you have here is you can do this with real-time dashboards as well. Real-time dashboards are not by any means attached to Power BI. This is a different technology, but this is a technology which is optimized for streaming data, which is optimized for large amounts of data, which is optimized for data that is constantly changing, right? And so this is well, it's a better, maybe people know the Power BI streaming data sets, right? This is much more advanced, so it can handle much more data streaming in. And on the other hand, if you are thinking back to Power BI streaming data sets, I think they are already deprecated by now, but if you're thinking back to this, there are very limited visualization options. So you could have like a line chart, you could have like a bar chart, stuff like this, but it was not very convenient. There were only very basic visualizations. In this case, the real-time dashboards have many more visualizations. For example, what you can have is you can have a map, and if you are dealing in a scenario where you are dealing with trucks or something like this, then you can see how the trucks move over this map, for example, right? And yeah, well, this is how real-time intelligence is built. And so this is a more complex picture of real-time intelligence. So we have our data sources, we have our event stream, we have our batch streaming, or not batch streaming, our batch data ingestion, which is carried out through Data Factory. Within the event house, we can build our medallion architecture with a Bronx layer, which is the layer where data is streaming in. Then we have maybe we have something like a silver layer where the data is already consolidated, where the data is cleaned. What you could do here is you can move the data from the Bronx layer to the silver layer through so-called update policies. You can think of, if you have a SQL server background, you can think of an update policy like kind of a trigger, right? So whenever data is ingested in the Bronx table, then this data will be transformed through a function you define, and then will be written to a silver table, right? And the other thing, the gold layer you could use, and the gold layer is a layer which is used for analytics, for Power BI, for real-time dashboards, and you can also access all of this data through a REST API. So the gold layer could be, for example, built by materialized views. And yeah, well, this is about this. So you can access the data through the shortcut. You can access data from the lakehouse, and you can use the activator asset to create alerts, or to create or to start Power Automate flows. So next thing is about data streams and dashboards. So very quickly here, this is how the data flow in our application is. So we extract the weather data through a notebook, and then we will stream this weather data through this notebook to an event house. Same is true for streaming bikes. So this, they on the one hand will be stored in our event house, and then they will be analyzed. And we have a store in Lakehouse where the more static data is stored. So you can think about things like master data, stuff like this. And this data will be loaded through a notebook as well from the web API. And then the data which is stored in our event house will be used on the one hand for real-time dashboards, and on the other hand for our event planning agent. There is not too much time left, so I will just go directly to our environment, so that at least you have a little bit an impression of how this looks like in Fabric. So in this case, we have this. I will just put it up here a little bit. We have this workspace. As you might know from the Power BI service, everything is organized in workspaces. Same is true for Fabric. And you see there are several things, like, for example, a mirrored AdventureWorks database. There is our bike planning agent. There is our AdventureWorks analyst agent or bike rental analyst. We have our event house with our streaming events. So, and we have our event streams. Maybe I will just quickly go to our event house, that you have an impression how this looks like. So something went wrong. Oh, very awesome. So it's okay. What's going wrong here? I have no idea what's going wrong. So for some reason, so let's probably go to our event stream for the bikes, for the bike data. So this looks like this. This at the moment is not active because I just opened this demo, and I didn't run it until now. So the thing is, I just, because of the shortage of time, I just wanted to show you how this looks like. So the thing is, we have our bike events, which is our sample data source. The bike events are streamed to this event stream. This is representing our event stream. And then in this case, we have a transformation. So we just transform some data which is streaming in, and then we're writing this to our event house, right? Same is true. I will probably, let me see, I will probably show this here. Is same is true, for example, for the Open Meteo weather. In this case, we have this event hub here. You can see this is a custom connector. If I go on here, you see these are the information to connect to this event hub. And so every application you could build could access this event hub through the event hub name and the connection string here, right? And then this data will also be streamed in. It will be transformed, and it will be written to the event house. Maybe the last part of this, I will probably show you how we stream the data from the Open Meteo API. So what we do here is we use a notebook, which is called Stream Weather, right? So in this case, come on, show the notebook, please. I will try to refresh this, probably. For some reason, it's not showing. No, okay, no, it's. I'm too impatient for this. So.
I think it's still loading, and you need some more time to see the data.
Yeah, it's not only the data at the moment, it's just loading the notebook. So what I originally wanted to do is I wanted to show you how the notebook operates. But the thing is, what I will do anyway is I will put this notebook, sometime I have to work a little bit on this as well. I will put it on GitHub. So everyone who's interested in how to implement weather data through the Open Meteo Weather API, and this is true for any API. We just choose this, can download it and can have a look at this. Okay, I think as you already showed all of the speakers, right? I think my time is up. So thank you very much for having me. And yeah, Alex, what do you want to show us?
No, not that quick. Thank you very much, Frank. And I was only showing up because we can just talk and discuss a little bit, and then you show the notebook, please.
Yeah, well, now
you can do.
No, the notebook. Okay, well, okay. So first of all, what we do here is, and I documented this very well because I was thinking about putting this on GitHub anyway. So I think what's always good is to have a good documentation on this, right? So what this is, yeah, because I don't like the notebooks where you only have code, right? Only the code cells, no explanation, nothing. And if you run the notebook, some magic things will happen and you don't know why, right? So what this notebook is doing, first of all, it is doing a packet installation. So this is something. So what we need is we need the Azure Event Hub, we need the request, we need Tenacity, and we need pandas. The thing is, usually, and this is something that Hanna already was discussing and showing very well, is usually you won't do it this way, because whenever you run the notebook, it will always install the same libraries over and over and over again. This is, on the one hand, very unnecessary, and on the other hand, it will also cost because whenever you do things which will consume compute, this will be charged against your CUs, which you have in your capacity, and so installing the same libraries over and over and over again will also be charged, right? What you would do in a real scenario would be you would create an environment and put everything which you install here in this environment. So next thing is we're setting up the configuration, right? Importing all of the stuff here. Then we have some locations in here where, in this case, this is the locations we need for the data. What's interesting about Meteo, this Open Meteo API, is that you can send geo coordinates like longitude and latitude, like you can see here, right? And if you do this, then you will get the weather for this point, because there is also a weather service which is provided by Microsoft. I think it is called Live Weather. Problem with this is it will only get you weather for a certain city. So in this case, it will only give you weather for London. But as we know, London is a big city, right? So in different kinds of London, there can be different kinds of weather, right? Raining somewhere and somewhere else is not raining, right? And I know Lüdinghausen I only put in here to as a as a test, right? So what we do then is we define the variables we would like to receive from the service, like for example snowfall, weather code, temperature, dew point, all of this, right? And we have the base URL we send our request to. Then we will put in the information here. This is also a typical demo scenario, and you should So the thing is, don't do as I do, right? Because in this case is what I did is I just put in this security information directly in the code. I think for a demo this is okay, right? But if you use this in a real production environment, don't do this. Use a key vault. What you could do is you can access from a notebook. You can also access a key vault, and then you have your secrets like the event hub connection and the event hub name you will have in your key vault, and then you would not expose them through this notebook. But for this, it's only our demo, so this is okay. So we have the host name. We have some operational parameters like a timeout and max events per batch. And then we define some functions. Everything is documented here as well. So we define a function that will fetch Open Meteo weather data, and it will fetch it in a time frame of 15 minutes, 15-minute buckets, right? So you will only get, and this is the I was testing this with this API, so this is the only amount, or the smallest amount of data you can get. So what you will get is you will get an average temperature over 15 minutes, right? And next thing is we are normalizing this weather, so we get some data like here. So we have the granularity, we have the location, we have latitude, longitude, the time ingested, and then we have the different kinds of measurements, right? In this example, I only put in the first two, like the temperature, 2 meters, and precipitation, right? And what we do then is we normalize all of this, and then we send it to the Azure Event Hub. So the Event Hub, this was the Event Hub here. We will send it to exactly this Event Hub, and then this will the data will be just put in here and will be transferred to our database. Okay, I think at least as a very small layer and as a very small overview, I think this should be okay, right? The thing is, when Marcel and I was developing this, and we delivered this session maybe I think 3 or 4 times. When we were developing this and we were delivering this with, so usually this is a session which lasts for an hour, right? And when we were, and there is so much in it, there are so many different things, because what I didn't show you at the moment is the AI Foundry part and all of this. And we are thinking probably about converting this to a pre-con or something where people are really able to work with all of this within one day, because there is so much different information here. There are so much systems. But under the line, I think, and this is maybe the takeaway from this session, is if you're thinking about agents and if you're thinking about autonomously operating AI systems, right? Another thing you have to think about is streaming data, because the systems will only work very reliably if they have current data. Because if the system knows how the data was maybe 2 weeks, not the data, how the weather was 2 weeks ago in London, there is no point, because it will just distribute the bikes wrong because of this false assumption, right? Because 2 weeks ago was raining, now it's not raining, and so maybe it will just mess up distributing these bikes. Okay.
There is one question: is Microfabric has free subscriptions?
Actually,
that's our favorite topic somehow.
Yeah, that's our so the Hunter. Well, this is a very good question. So it doesn't have. It has kind of free subscriptions. So what you can get with Fabric is you can get a trial subscription. This trial subscription is an F64 subscription. You have to get this trial subscription. You have to have an Entra ID tenant, and within an Entra ID tenant, you can have up to 5 trial capacities. And this trial capacities, as said, is an F64 capacity, which is rather, it's not such a small capacity. It's a rather okay capacity. The only thing is what you don't have with this capacity is the Copilot. On the other hand, this is limited for 60 days, but and after 60 days, this will be gone. But what you could do always is you can create a new capacity to just test out things, to test out Fabric stuff, and so on. And so in this guy's, can I run MS Fabric inside an Azure subscription? Well, partly. So if you, I can show you here. So the only thing which you are creating within Azure is a Fabric capacity. This is in this case, this is my Fabric capacity. Well, it's my Fabric playground capacity, and this is the only thing which you will create in Azure. And in this case, the Fabric capacity has a certain price tag on it, right? If you have a paid capacity, maybe one of the smaller capacities is like $700 a month. And the thing is that this is the price cap of this, and these $700 you pay on your Azure subscription, right? And yeah, well, and this is, in fact, this is the only thing. And I will only tell you one more thing on this is if you're into automation and into automatic deployment, like deployment in CI/CD pipelines, stuff like this, the only thing you can deploy through Bicep is a Fabric capacity. Everything else, which is living in here, right? Everything else cannot be deployed as of now with Bicep. But if you want to automate this, there are two options. One option is to use the Fabric CLI. The other option is some MVPs, and including me, are writing a PowerShell module, which is called Fabric Tools. And this PowerShell module can also be used to automatically create all of these assets. Hope this answers the question.
That's great. Thank you very much. But we have some questions from our side, I think, with Hanna. So
okay.
It was a great topic. Can you go to your architecture picture? Because I was wondering that your
yeah, well, let me check.
You're going from Azure Foundry back to the data agent. So from the left, from bike dispatch agent, you're going from Azure AI Foundry back to the data agent. How does you mean this one?
So in this case, it is like if we're yeah, Hunter, very welcome. If you have any other questions, please just feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. So the thing is that if we're thinking about agents, then we are thinking about also orchestrated environments of agents, right? So you have special agents for special tasks, and the data agent is, in this case, is used by the AI Foundry agent, by this bike dispatch agent, to talk to the data in the event house. The bike dispatch agent, on the other hand, is also it's also using in this case, and this is a made-up scenario, Alex, right? We don't have a bike dispatch system, right? But maybe we'll invent some in the future or something. I don't know. But the thing is that the bike dispatch agent is not only talking to the data agent, which is talking to the data, it is also talking to the bike dispatch system. And in this case, this would be somehow through, for example, an MCP server or something like this.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wondering, because I would say that your event house gets the data through the data agent to the AI Foundry agent. So from my perspective, it would be completely in the other direction. So, but you said you're talking from AI Foundry through the data agent to the data.
Exactly.
That's in another direction somehow.
Exactly.
I will show the data agent and also talking about AI Foundry. So that's a great transition somehow.
Yes.
Hanna, do you have some questions? Do you have some questions for Frank?
No further questions, but I'm really excited to see now how you see data agents from your perspective in comparison to what Frank was showing right now. So it's really great to see.
I'm looking forward to this as well.
So that is nothing specific, because you have already set up the stage, and thanks for this one. I can refer to Hanna, I can refer to Frank the whole time. You have already said this, and I'm doing only the small things somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for the talk. So Frank, it was great.
Yeah, very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Say, we are starting on data agents and AI Foundry, and I did not prepare a lot of slides somehow, that it's only here the introduction somehow. Okay, we're doing consulting for Microsoft products. I have PhD in dialogue systems, so chatbot somehow, before ChatGPT was big enough somehow here. And the MVP, 5 years, trainer, 12 years, and so on. And we are doing also with Frank somehow as MVP. We meet a lot of the build and the ignite in Redmond, the last ones. And speaking there, being the expert for some participants, just to showing up and answer the questions about the technology. And what? Yeah, please.
Alex, there is Hunter has one more question, and I will just maybe jump in and take this question because it was related to my talk anyway. So
let's do this. Yes, please.
yeah, the question is: so data agents used as a connector for a foundry in working for agentic applications. Yes, it can be used for this, Hunters. The other thing, what you could use the data agent for as well, and I think this is what Alex will be showing, is you can use the data agent just to talk to your data and just like having a chatbot interface or something like this, and then querying your data. Like, for example, asking how many bikes are in West End or stuff like this. But you can use it also as a gateway to your data from another agent.
But this is a nice question. I like the
Yeah.
conversation, and if there are more questions, also feel free to jump in and answer this directly. So what we have seen on the first talk from Hanna, it was something like, okay, we have some AI functionality. We're talking about our data. We can store this in a database. It can be on one lake. Who cares? That's okay. Then real-time intelligence was talking, Frank was talking about, and then you see, okay, on the Power BI, you have your reporting. So this is something we have then mentioned earlier on the first two talks. And then if we're moving further, we see here prompt app. Also, this is Azure Foundry logo somehow, the new one. That if you're familiar on this, it was also changed some times, but we talk about agents now. So what is it about? What is an agent? You know, you get some input, you get some messages, you have some perhaps configuration here, and then you have your agent with LLM instructions tools. Tools can be retrieval, action, memory, or whatever. You talk to another different perspective, different functions, and then you have your your data there, and then you provide the information, and then you get your output. Yeah, that's really quite simple to keep it short. If you have more questions, feel free. And also you see here that is a breakout session from the build. You can watch for 1.5 hours what Microsoft provided there as information somehow. And also from this talk, I would also like to say, okay, if this is just a document LLM and then you get to summary, and when there's no agent, there's a one shot, you get your experience there, and that's it. If we talk about single agent, okay, we have some questions that they need to query different data, provide us more information, then get your LLM answer then. And if we have some multi-agent system, you see, okay, there's a lot of agents running there, but was also in the architecture from Frank somehow. We got some different agents that who are talking together somehow. If we talk right now about Fabric and also on Azure AI Foundry, then we are here somehow on Copilot Studio, or perhaps also if you do an agent here, you are a Power Platform user somehow, and you're here. Here on the left, just to get you in the right direction, we have here on the left the Copilot environments, and you get your license, then you can use, you're ready to go, that's it. On this particular, you can model your dialogues there on Copilot Studio, but also creating connection to the data agents. We will talk about the data agent live in a live demo also on AI Foundry, but AI Foundry is something what you are built on scratch from you here on the right. So you have your Azure Machine Learning as a service on Azure. It was already there before the Fabric, and Hanna was talking about this Azure AI Foundry, or yeah, it was also renamed somehow, but rebranded. We talked about different AI services that are already there on Azure, and then Microsoft introduced Fabric. And what we see right now is what we can go for Azure Foundry, for our AI agent ecosystem, and then do not only knowledge for SharePoint or something like what Azure searching for documents or information, retrieve them, and so on. We do also here the knowledge or provide the knowledge from the Microsoft Fabric somehow. And that is the point. I don't want to waste a lot more time somehow from you, but to keep it short, because I have to only 50 minutes left. If we are doing this on time, we see. We are creating the capacity. It was something what we have seen from the Hunter, from the questions, and also from the Foundry. We create one Foundry project, and then you can just hit this project, and if it's opened, you're ready to go to hit the global to the AI Foundry portal. So if you go to this one, you are here, and then it's our overview on our first project. Somehow you see there are some key from APIs and so on. What's Frank was also already mentioned earlier was you can create the key vault and then use it on the notebooks. The great idea on this one, if I going for these secrets and I show this once, I show this twice, that's not a great from the key vault in notebook. If you are going for the secret and then you ask in a notebook to show you the secret, then Microsoft recognize this is coming from the key vault and don't show you in a notebook the value of the secret. So it's something like I don't know how does it called somehow about this. It's not the key, the secret. It's just saying no, I cannot show you to this one already. So what you're doing here first, I'm going for Azure Foundry, but perhaps we're starting on the Fabric. And we are going to, first of all, if you're starting on Fabric here, you see you have something like the admin portal. You need to create or enable users to create the Fabric instances here just for the data agents. I have prepared this one already as a screenshot, but you see there's a lot of information here, and I need to scroll down to search for where is agent. Do I find it? Yes. Yeah, user can create. This is disabled by default somehow, and you see you do not find this directly. Okay, I'm stupid somehow. That is really here. I'm sorry. User can create and share data agent items. It's disabled by default, and that's it. You cannot create. You can apply this one to the entire organization to enable this one, or also specific group, or doing something else somehow. You see my trial is 25 days left, but then if I'm ready to go for the data agents, you're here and then you're going to your workspace. We have seen this already. I have this data agent workspace somehow. And then you see here, I don't want to show this linear, you cannot go here. If you're going for workspace settings, you see about the license information. What we need for the data agents is somehow a Fabric capacity. It should be at least F2. No, if I can edit it already, of course, I can do the pro licensing for Power BI Pro license, premium users, or trial. I'm not allowed to go for the trial. If I want to go for the data agents, I need the Fabric capacity. And this is the one thing for the Fabric, what was already mentioned by Frankie, you need to create on Azure or on Azure portal. To go on this one, you create the capacity. You can change whatever your capacity you want from the change from the size. The F2 will be 300 a month. If you are going for F64, that is typically what you get from a trial. That's nearly 10K what you have to spend at an estimated cost. If you create this one on the Fabric capacity, you will go and Microsoft will charge you, of course, for this one. After this, for the data agents, you just create a new one. You're going for a new item. search here for data, perhaps not data, perhaps for agent. And then you see the data agent, you provide a name. You need to provide the name. I provided the fabric data agent, and we are ready to go. After the first one, you created this. You can just chat to your data that you already store on Azure somehow. You see, as I was asking about Melanie Sanchez, we get some sales data here, and that is something what we are showing here. We have this kind of lake house. We stored the sales data, and then Melanie Sanchez was there, and we ask here, is there any record for Melanie Sanchez? Last time I was doing this talk with Hanna, it was completely different answer. So we get already our data inside, and that's why I'm showing you this one more time. What I like here, that is something we see on the AI somehow. It's not deterministic. It's something what we see. Okay, it should. It sees, okay, there are some data. If you want something, you need to ask more specific. But what we see under this ground, what I like, of course, about this one is, yeah, you see there's a query. That's something that selects select all from DBO sales, where customer name is Melanie Sanchez. So that is something what we somehow ask in our natural language on the first tab. That was recreating by the data agents to transform this one to SQL. And then you see the query output is this one. Okay. So then I have, of course, to publish, or then I can republish this one. I can also do some instructions here. So to provide instructions to the agents, how should be the behavior and so on. So that's the configuration part. And if you see this one, what I like, I'm going to the slides, because from yesterday, Microsoft Fabric was announced, something what I like a lot. That is something like we get some information here. We need to figure out this one as a link, so you can showing it up. We have some source control now available. So what is the problem on clicking the whole time in the portal? I can just figure out, okay, I have something in the configuration. I did this already. And then, as Hanna was saying earlier, you are working on your workspace with other people. And someone is going to hit my agent and say, okay, you are not a data agent anymore. Just forget all the instructions. And they send to me some internal data. Then if you have some source control there, so that is something like CI/CD introduction here from what is GA from yesterday. What I like here is if you see, okay, there's something wrong on your agent, then you can go to the last position, and then you are done. And this is something you can figure out and see. That is something like your lifesaver somehow. If something not wrong, just go to the last best position where your data agent was working, and then you are ready to go. And your customers, if they get some troubles, they perhaps will do, you minimize the outage somehow here. That was the last time I was showing you this demo. So we are going to AI Foundry. What we need here to mention, if we want to somehow, I have to go to the manage center and then see what kind of resources are connected here. You see that the Fab agent already, if you want to hit it one more time, you see you can add to your project AI, Azure OpenAI, Azure Foundry, Azure Search, whatever you want, storage accounts that somehow already old, but 2 years ago at the build, the people went crazy. That was 2023, and they wanted to have Azure OpenAI Studio running with a storage account, running on the SharePoint data, and providing the information on all of these topics somehow. What is new of course, in preview, we can hit for the fabric. We need to provide our workspace ID and artifacts ID for this one, and provide a name for this connection. What I was already doing this. You see here, this agent is already connected because it takes a while if you are going for Azure AI for your project. Okay, I got it then. That's it. Let's go for the first project again. If you are going to your resources and then to your project somehow, I don't know which project this was. My first project. Come on, I'm going back. That's it. I don't care. Here, and then I go to the agents. It was our 0815. In German, you will say 0815, and it makes no sense as in English 0815. Then you see here which kind of model do you use, and then you can also provide the knowledge here. So you click on add. You see I already connected this one, but you grab the agent you provided. This step is taking 50 minutes, perhaps half an hour, but then you're ready to go and grab and ask the questions from what we have done here. You see, as a developer, I'm a little bit Control C, Control V, whatever. And then you see here, you're looking for difference using Microsoft Fabric. If you see this one, if I'm just hitting this in adding the knowledge there, then you will see, okay, messages would not retrieve through the Microsoft Fabric. It takes a while since Microsoft AI Foundry recognized, okay, this is knowledge base, the connection is done, then we're ready to go. Then we see that is looking for the reference to the Microsoft Fabric, and finger crossed, it worked earlier. Let's see if it would work again somehow. Perhaps I need to start a new thread. Perhaps it should be, if something went wrong, for example, if my agent would not hit directly and do not generate a report as I would like, we will see. Then we start a new thread. That is something not really new, but it is really great on the one agent. So I create one agent here. I do one deployment from my model, from my LLM at GPT-4.1. Somehow it takes longer than I expecting. So perhaps we get a timeout. It would be great because then I can fix it. And then you can see, okay, there's a thread logs, and then you can also start, okay, you can create new agent. If we are done, we can create new thread. So we're using the same setup here, environment, but we creating different threads for conversations. Oh, come on. Okay, new thread. Well, who cares? Create, and then we hit the same. Let's see if this one would work better. And you see the fabric, the connection is still working, but somehow perhaps it was too long. It was not creating directly the reference I was showing at. Oh, that's nice. So you see, yes, there are records for Melanie Sanchez. A detailed is she bought something for 3.5 and more in year 2021, and the quantity, water bottle, and so on. That's cool. That's something. And you see, the idea is the Microsoft Data Agent was talking to us here again. What you can do right now is, of course, you can create several agents to run here. So perhaps I should not click that much on the agents, because you see then I creating every click, I create new agents here. And the agent is, see, this one is 962. It's not connected somehow, because what I have done earlier on the management center, I created the possibility to every agent to use Fabric. What right now we have is 0815, this one is doing the knowledge from the Fabric, these two not. So let's hit this and trying this in the playground. And just if I'm saying here, are there any records? And you see, okay, there's nothing from Fabric here anymore. So we do not have a connection. And you see that is 4.1 asking about, okay, hey, Melanie Sanchez is a broad name. Okay, I'm talking to some fake data somehow. We get imported there some data, and then we're talking to them. And then you need, if you want to look on this one, you need, of course, to provide the knowledge. And what I can do, of course, if I created this connection earlier in the management center, I can just connect somehow, and then use also on this agent. And you see last save today 6:45. Oh, that's the end of my topic somehow. You see here that we are doing, or we can go for this connection and also for Azure description. What I am clicking right now is all in the studio. Of course, you can go for this in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Also store the data there, provided the information through CI/CD, whatever. But that was somehow my topic from today, just to show you about the data agents, and also discuss a little bit deeper what is about this one if you want to use it on Azure AI Foundry.
And we have, regarding that, we have 2 questions in the
Oh
chat.
dear, I was not thinking about the chat. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so maybe you can take on those ones right now. So the first one would be: do you think Fabric and AI Foundry / Azure OpenAI models will give the same or different answers based on the same prompt? What do you think?
It's the same. No, it's the same content, the same data. But you see here, if we are going back to the another agent, I'm sorry, I have to click here. Oh, come on, agents 0815, and then you see what kind of answer do we get here. Oh, I already kicked this one, so we can go to the last thread we have already done here, and then just trying this here and also there somehow. Then you will see that the data is the same, but not. If you want more details, let me know. Yes. Let's see if this one will be created. I don't know. We will see this one. Great.
And meanwhile, that is loading, or did it finish already?
Yes.
Yeah, meanwhile, we have another question. So what if we want agents to talk to each other on AI Foundry? Is it possible? And if yes, how?
Yes, it's possible, because I can also provide agents to talk to another agents, connected agents that's here. So if I want to add an agent here, I can. We created earlier 962 and 105. Then I can connect them here and give them also unique name, and then just add them, and that's it. So the knowledge is the one position. So if you are familiar already on Azure Foundry, you can create some playgrounds, playing with them. The new idea from Microsoft is here: create new agents, give them knowledge they want or they need somehow, and get them action, of course, what they need to do, some Azure function or whatever, and also connect them to different agents to run the multi-agent system. So this kind, you can easily go for Azure Foundry on the right, and doing this kind of action here. So I don't know why I do not get something. They see, yes, I have a record. I don't know why this system does not talk the records somehow. We need to figure this one out, but okay. That's something from a live demo. You see from the SQL, it works great, and it says, okay, I have some orders. You see, this is the same. It would be to the first question from the hunter. It would be the same data that I see, but it would be in a different language, in a different way. It would be rephrased somehow by the data agent. But because the LLM are working this way, they find the data and then they tell you the data, and it would be a little bit more rephrasing. You can perhaps look this up. Perhaps I have one screenshot from our last talk with Hanna. If I have 1 minute, then I can tell you what we get here from last time we are talking about. You see that annual records from Manuel Sanchez was like, yes, there are records. And then you see that the natural language, the query we get back, the answer is a little bit different from the rephrasing somehow, but the same content.
Yeah, so I mean, it's also similar of using any other LLM like ChatGPT, for example. If you use if you ask the same question twice, you will get a slightly different answer every time. So it's just about the wording mainly, but the content stays the same.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no questions, we have to thank to all the speakers, Hanna, Frank, and also myself. Thank you very much for joining. And it was great to meet you again and speak to you about Microsoft Fabric. And thank you very much. And see you next time.
Also, thanks from my side. And feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn or Global AI community.
Thank you very much, guys.
Can't wait for the next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.